What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another video. And yesterday were the closing times for the CertifiedLink.com auctions of vintage Kenner Star Wars items. And there were some absolute really nice items. Everything from early bird kits all the way into Palatoy Tri-Logos. And the prices were not cheap. They were some... The final sales prices were really surprising. So Certified Link, they don't deal directly with just Star Wars stuff. It's all over the map. Their winter auction lot, they usually do like 4 a year type thing. But their winter auction lot included everything from graded video game systems. There were graded VHS tapes. We all know that how crazy that market has gotten. They had some sports cards that were graded, and then finally some Star Wars items. So I didn't pick everything out that sold in the Star Wars auctions, but I picked out a number of really nice examples that sold. And I'm going to start with the 1978 early bird kit. So this was the early bird kit, one of the very first items that you could get. Obviously the toys were not ready for the 1977 Christmas season. So they were selling these, display stand type things along with the mailer for this early bird kit. And you got a Luke Skywalker, Leia, Chewbacca, and R2-D2 in this mail-away kit. And it includes some paperwork and catalogs and things like that, a little tray. Very, very expensive item. This is the earliest of the early action figures. The Lukes came with either double telescoping or non-telescoping sabers. And this one was an early bird kit mail-away 1978. So it came out, right after the holiday selling season of 1977. Parents bought the certificates at retail, mailed them away, and then this is what you got. And this one was an AFA 75 plus, the box, and I don't know what the W stands for. I assume that's kind of like the wrapper or the window. That's what they usually refer to for boxed items, but I would think it's for the bags, the condition of the bags, and then the figures. So 75, 85, 80, 75 plus overall. The final sales price was $10,251. You are asking the wrong person if you're asking whether I thought that was a fair deal or not. I don't follow these very closely. That price seems pretty steep for a 75 plus. But what do I know? I mean, the last kind of reference point in my mind, and again, I don't know how recent it was because I don't keep track of these closely. The last reference point in my mind was kind of in that $7,000 to $8,000 range for a lower grade example. I believe it was a 60 or 65, maybe a 70, somewhere in that ballpark. And that was around eight grand. So $10,251 for a 75 plus. Is it fair? Sure, whatever. I mean, these are never going to be a bad investment. Anyone who's got the kind of deep pockets for this, whether they're paying $8,000 or $10,000, I'm not sure if they really care or not. But it's just one of those iconic items, and for the very upper end collectors. And it's a beautiful, beautiful example. If you want to see another one of these, go check out Chris W's Instagram page, which is @prune_productions. I believe Chris has one of these sets. It's a pretty amazing item. And on that note, before I dig in any further, for those of you that do have Star Wars collections, vintage Star Wars collections, I am not a buyer, but I try to help people place those collections if you're trying to sell them. So reach out to me by email, which is actionfiguregrader@gmail.com, or you can reach out to me by Instagram, which is @actionfiguregrader, and I'd be happy to try and help you. I've just helped a number of different sellers that wanted to sell some stuff, and I was able to help place those items for them. So don't hesitate to reach out to me if you want to get a price quote. They're very fair prices, and you don't have to deal with eBay and all the sales tax and all that stuff that we've talked about in past videos. All right, next up we got a 12-back A Death Squad Commander. This was an AFA 75 that sold for $1,295. There were a number of really nice early 12 and 20 backs in this auction. Whoever had this collection just had some absolute belters. But here's the grading on that one: 80, 75, 80. Looked like it had a little crinkle right there in the upper left-hand, or the upper portion of the blister. That's what held the score back. But it was a beautiful unpunched example with no price sticker. And the final sales price for a 12-back A, almost $1,300. Another note is Certified Link's buyer's premium, way cheaper than Hakes or Vectis, places like that. It's only 3% on Certified Link. So that's a pretty awesome deal. Much cheaper. I think Hakes is like 18%, somewhere in there. And Vectis is about 20%. So a 3% buyer's premium is very attractive, and that probably reflects in the final sales price, you know, because people adjust their prices accordingly. And I think that what you'll find is if these same items were listed on Hakes, there's potential there that the final sales price maybe wouldn't be quite as high, just because people know that they have to account for the buyer's premium at the end of the sale. Anyway, here's a 12-back C Leia. This was AFA 80. Beautiful example there. Now, again, this goes back to what we've talked about in the past, and the scores reflected it, but the Leia's torso has started to discolor. So it's got some discoloration going on, even inside a sealed blister like that. But the score reflected that. It was a 75 for the figure score. But it's just something to keep in mind that, you know, this, if you're buying one that was graded a long time ago and it's got like a figure score of 85, but the torso looks like that, you need to be aware of that. You need to be aware that that grading is probably a little bit out of date, and it may not, you know, really be worth what they're asking for it if that torso's got some discoloration. So really check that out on the Stormtroopers as well as the Leias for these 12 backs and 20 backs. But anyway, it was still a beautiful item. I don't care about that discoloration or not. It sold for $1,600 for a 12-back C. I would have paid that all day long. That is a great price in my mind. Here's a 12-back C R2-D2 made in Taiwan. So that's a really nice kind of alternate factory, not the usual made in Hong Kong. AFA 80, and that one sold for 1,500 bones, $1,500. But it was the Taiwan version, so that's pretty cool. 80, 80, 75 were the scores. And again, this is a case where it looks like maybe the legs have started to discolor a little bit. So that's probably what drove the figure score down to a 75. But give me a break. That is a beautiful example of a 12-back R2-D2. And the final price of $1,500. Here's a 12-back B C3PO. This one sold for $1,000 even. It was an AFA 75. That's a pretty good price there if you ask me. It was punched and it did have a price sticker, but that's a beautiful 3PO for the price. 12-back B Han Solo. This one was an AFA 85. It was punched, but I mean, that's a really high score for a 12-back. That sold for $3,450. That is a big number, but a gorgeous example of a 12-back Han. This is a 12-back B Jawa. This was AFA 80. It was punched, no price sticker, but that's a really nice looking card there. The card was 75, blister 85, figure 75, and the final price was $1,100. That's kind of in line. I mean, we've seen some examples on eBay go for about that or higher. I mean, it's kind of more like 1,300 range, so that number seems pretty reasonable for a 12-back B. Here was a 12-back B Sand People. This was 80 plus grade. Beautiful example there. And again, you know, going back to some of the discoloration and degradation that happens to these figures inside the blister, this one's got a really clean cape. But you got to be careful for the Sand People, for any card back, really. I mean, especially the early 12 and 20 backs. But I've seen some ESBs where the cape has started to discolor. It's got like brownish staining on it. So you got to really zoom in on those details for those items. But this one was a really clean example. And the figure score was an 85. It looks like every bit of an 85 to me. And, you know, again, the final sales price was $1,300. We got a 12-back C Darth Vader, AFA 75 plus. That one sold for $1,900. That seems a little steep to me for a 12-back C. I mean, I could see that maybe for a 12-back B, or, I mean, I guess my numbers are just so off for 12-backs. I certainly don't own any, and I doubt I ever will. But this is a pretty steep number in my mind for a 75 plus. It was beautiful though. It was really nice. You can see the wear around the hang tab, so I think the scoring was correct. But look how gorgeous that card is. That is just mouth-watering, as a certain YouTuber in the UK likes to say. This is a 21-back B Walrus Man, AFA 80. This seller had whoever consigned these items, he had a number of Walrus Men. He must have had a Walrus Man focus, because there were some gorgeous examples across a number of different card backs, and this is the first one. I didn't pull all of them, but I pulled a lot of them. But this was AFA 80, unpunched, no sticker. I mean, just as good as it gets. That one sold for $1,325. And then here was a 21-back D with the free Secret Star Wars action figure. I think that was for the Bosk, if memory serves. And that one was an AFA 80. That one sold for $1,310. So a couple of really nice examples of the Walrus Man. I think that there were like a few others. There was an ESB, and I think there was a Return of the Jedi. I don't know if I pulled the rest of them. We'll see. Now, this number was crazy. I cannot believe the final sales price on this. This was a Return of the Jedi 48 back Bosk AFA 80 unpunched. A friend of mine was bidding on this, and at the time, right before the auction ended, it was at $650. And I was like, you know, and I bid on it early just so I could track it, because CertifiedLink doesn't allow you to track stuff really easily otherwise. So I think I bid on it when it was like $100 or something. Anyway, this one was at $650 as the auction was ending, and he was going to bid like $700 or $750. It sold for $800. $800. Now it is a transition card, so it's, you know, this is the 48 back with the free Neon Numb offer. So on this card back, the Return of the Jedi card back, only Empire Strikes Back and Star Wars figures appeared on this card back. But man, that is a crazy number. This is one I have in my collection already, and mine's an AFA 80 as well. I paid $345 for that maybe 3 years ago, and now it's $800. I mean, that is a big number, and I feel bad for my buddy who wasn't able to get it. But the $800 number seems like an overpay to me. I mean, what do I know though? I do know that in general, these transition cards, these transition Return of the Jedi 48 backs, they command big money. I mean, it's especially for certain figures. I mean, obviously Princess Leia is the most desirable. That's a really tough one. Any Lukes are going to be expensive, but you know, even Boss now and some of these other ESB figures that are on this Neon Numb, like the TIE Fighter pilot, for example, on this card back is very expensive. The Hammerhead is another one that's pretty pricey. I've bid on in the past and lost on. So just be aware that, you know, this Neon Numb sticker, if you see that on a Return of the Jedi card, it's a transition card. So that means no Return of the Jedi characters will show up on it. And you're going to be paying a little bit more for it. You're going to be paying a premium for it because it is a transition card. Oh, here it is. Yeah, so this is the other one I wanted to point out. This is one I was thinking about bidding on, but it blew way past my number. This was an AFA 80 plus Walrus Man. It looks beautiful, and I loved the way that it looked with that sticker. I just think it presented really nicely. And it was an unpunched example, 80 plus grade. That sold for $735. Just way too much. I was willing to go to maybe $600, maybe $650, but that's just too much money. Here's an 80 plus yellowed General Madine 65 back A. That one sold for $160. I thought that was a great price for a Madine. I wouldn't mind picking up a Madine at some point, but it was yellowed, but it was very lightly yellowed, and it presented really nicely. $160 is a great price for that one, I think. And then here was a reuse AFA yellowed 80. That one sold for $195. I've got a few reuse. I wouldn't mind getting a US card. I think I've got the Japanese card. I can't remember now. My memory's terrible. I got a Made in Mexico. No, I've got a Made in Mexico, and I've got a Palatoy Tri-Logo. Those are the two I've got. But I wouldn't mind having a US card at some point. 8D8, he's awfully popular these days after his appearance in the Book of Boba Fett. This was a yellowed 90. Yellowed 90, and that one was sold for $359. That's a pretty good deal for a 90 grade, yellowed or not. That's a good deal. But look at this one. This one was a 90 grade 77 back A B-wing palette, but it was a clear blister. How often do you see that? Not very often. Very hard to find these 77 backs with a clear blister, unpunched, and it sold for $1,000. So somebody really paid up for that clear blister, unpunched 90 grade. And that's a big number for a very common figure that it's just not common with a clear blister, and the price reflected that. Here was another nice one that I really wanted, but just blew way past any normal, reasonable expectations, and that was an AFA 85 Tri-Logo Palatoy Chewbacca. It was punched, but it was as immaculate as it gets for a very difficult to find high-grade example. I mean, that's very, very hard to find with those blisters. That one sold for $1,606. I think that in general, if you got an AFA 80 or 85 or above Palatoy Tri-Logo, those are only going to go up in value. They're just so difficult to find because of those blisters are so fragile. They're so, large, so much larger than the figures that they're just difficult to find in AFA 80 and 85 grade. So if you got them, hang on to them, because I still think that they're going to continue to go up in price, and that price reflected that. Finally, we had a 92 back Power of the Force Last 17 Luke Skywalker indoor poncho. That one sold for $671. That was a yellowed 80 grade, and I think that was a pretty fair price, really. I mean, it was unpunched, and this is one that we see on eBay regularly go $750, $800, $850. So I think that was a very fair price for whoever paid that. I would have paid that all day long. Beautiful case. So anyway, just some more price data for non-eBay. You know, CertifiedLink is one you want to check out. They don't come up often, maybe once every quarter or so, but they do have really nice listings out there. And this was just a sampling of what they had. I mean, there were a number of other items that I didn't include in this video, and the prices were all over the map. But there were some good deals, and there were some that were not, obviously. And clearly the prices, even away from eBay, reflect that high grade equals big price premiums. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.